Alright, welcome to Stampscaping 101. We're going to do two variations, well, I guess a variation on two different colors of foil here in a quarter page format. The previous original was on a half page format. And what we're going to do is we're going to test just how fast we can do these scenes here. I thought they would be much quicker to do. There's the original there from 2 videos ago. People seem to like that one, so I thought I'd do a quicker version of it. And simply changing the scale, of course, is going to make things go much faster. These 2 pieces of foil are by the same company, Recollections, and you can find these packs at Michael's. The blue one was from a jewel tone pack. And I believe the name of the red and green versions here are, I think it's the primary pack. Okay, these packs are really inexpensive. There's about 25 sheets, I believe. And I think there's 5 different colors of 5 different, let me see, 5 pieces of 5 different colors. I believe it's either that or it's a 20 pack, I don't remember. Okay, here's the thing that I found out when doing this. It finally occurred to me. I haven't used all of the different colors numerous times, okay? I think I don't remember doing the gold and the red and the green foils before. I'm sure I have. But this is what I think with these very inexpensive types of foil here. I believe that the color is just printed right on top of probably a silver foil, and these inks or whatever that's used to print these colors on top of it are prone to bleeding into I guess water-based media, because that's what these are here. The white pigment ink and black here are both Brilliance, and they are water-based pigment inks. which have some fast drying component in them that allows them to dry on these non-porous types of surfaces. All right, so here's what I found as I went along here, or this is what I speculate. The colors of the foil will bleed into and influence the value of the media being applied. Okay, so I used both pigment ink and acrylic paint pens, and they're both water-based. Okay, so I found that I don't know, that white here later turns into kind of a, I don't know, a seafoam green or something like that. And I thought it could just be the ink becoming more and more kind of moving towards transparent from translucent here. I know that, when you layer this over it, the white is not completely opaque, so some of the color is going to show through, but I'm pretty sure that it physically blended with this ink as I went along. So just the very nature of that, now this always happens with pigment inks. The white dries more transparent, so if you're putting it over something darker, it looks darker, okay? But this one was pretty extreme, so I had to redo things maybe 2 or 3 times, which makes the process slower, of course. On the other hand, you do get different values of your applications instead of just only having, say, white or just variations of white. You'll get a little bit of green when applying to green, and when applying this white over the top of the red, you'll get a little bit of this peach color. Okay, so what I did was I stamped out my Rocky Creek in here on both sides, okay? And we need that white base layer that we first applied to the scene for that Rocky Creek to show up, okay? We need a little bit of contrast for that Rocky Creek to show up. If we just go black straight on red foil or green foil, there's not going to be very much contrast, so it's going to be really hard to see. But we didn't apply a real thick layer of that white. It's just kind of a foundation layer, just enough to see it. And then, now that you can see exactly where the impressions are, what we're doing is we're going back in and redefining now the banks of that creek, okay? And I'm just going to here with a ripped paper towel and kind of like a cloudy night or mountain, if you've ever done the torn paper towel technique. We're just applying that down here to represent snow. Okay, now I'm just applying it with a 100% cotton ball, okay? So it's just a soft application. You'll see where we add some crisp elements later in the snow. Okay, so see that bridge in there. Again, there's a little bit of that fogged out or blocked out area in the back with the white ink so that we can see it. All right, so there we have the bridges. Okay, no masking or anything like that required. But now that we have the bridge in place, what we'll do is we'll also kind of define the edges. Okay, now every time that we apply a layer of media down or impressions, what we have to do is we have to heat set it if we're going to apply something else on top. Because that white pigment ink, while it does have a fast drying component in there, it's not like a StazOn or something where it's going to instantly dry. All right, I'm opening up my second brand new Brilliance pad for the first time here, and this is going to be my Impressions white Brilliance pad. And I have that C on the other pad, which, I don't know, I just wrote C for cotton ball. Because when I do use cotton on that Brilliance pad, inevitably there gets to be, some cotton fibers building up on the surface of that pad. So when I go to make an impression with it, with a stamp, sometimes those fibers, are in the impression. It's not a big problem or anything like that, but I can see those fibers, and it's not good to have those on there sometimes. It makes it look like a little, slightly bit of a fuzzy impression. You can get those fibers off just by scraping it, but I'm just going to have a dedicated pad for now on. And I use these all the time, so much more than any single color, so I don't know, these pads aren't any more expensive than any standard type of I don't know, usually dye-based ink or pigment ink or any kind of ink for that matter. I'd highly recommend them because they're going to open up way more possibilities for you in terms of what you can stamp on, including foils like this. Okay, so white impressions with these trees. They look reasonably opaque. I mean, the one stamped on green, you can see that green coming through the white. And the one on the red, you can see the red coming through that. Now, what I found with these two different colors, see that? You can kind of see that, a little bit of that peachish color. And it's because, and when I looked at my cotton ball, I could see that there was ink kind of coming off on the cotton ball. So it's like I'm applying more of like a pale, I don't know, tan or something like that. You can see it, really see it on the right side. See how that snow looks a little bit warmer in tone? I should have switched cotton balls here because now I'm applying some of that peachish color over to the green side, but I don't know, no big deal. We're just using a little bit more, I don't know, kind of temperature, I guess you can say. See, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a slight tinge of kind of a warm tone in there. And if you look at that red over on the right-hand side, the reflective area of it, it's a slightly warm red. It's not quite a neutral red. Okay, now I'm making this bridge stand out a little bit more by creating more contrast behind it. So I put a little bit more clouds behind it. And we'll do the same thing here with the red one. I mean, I can see the bridge, but you can see it better by applying more of the white. And it creates more of that contrast. You don't have to do it over everything. You just have to, like on that red one, I just did it on the right-hand side. Okay, so let's see. I figured I might as well do the word stamp now because I'm going to have to heat set this now, so I might as well get another element into, you know, play here before I heat set. All right, now just keep your heat gun moving around while you're doing that. These foils, you know, they're metallic. You could get some puckering on the surface if you keep that heat gun just kind of aimed at one area for too long. So heat set the front, and you can heat set the back a little bit too. The Brilliance inks dry very quickly when heat set, so you can even see it kind of change as you're doing it. Okay, so I have my acrylic paint pen here, and we're going to attempt to create more contrast and kind of a surface shimmer. Oh, no, actually, we're going to line the creek here with this white pen, and you can see just how much contrast is being created by true white. But here's the thing. Later on, I found that that white that looks so white right now, keep that in mind later on when you know, we get a little bit farther along in the process, further along. That white is not going to be white any longer. It's going to be more of like a peach color. And I think I guess it's physically blending with that ink on the surface. I don't know, it still seems bizarre to me because these, you know, this paint, I mean, it doesn't take too long to dry. I guess it doesn't take too long for that ink on the surface. Now, I mean, look at that piece one up there, the red one. Okay, look at that white there. See, that white is no longer white, is it? It's slowly turning. It's interesting watching this on time lapse because now you can see that white up above. See, the green's a little bit more color fast. It's staying, you know, it's not bleeding into the white quite as much. But that one up top there, you know, is really turning. And you can see those trees up top too. They're, you know, they're far more, I don't know, reddish in tone. See that right there? I mean, I still hadn't, at this point in time, I still hadn't really clued in, you know, with the, that bleed in. But, I don't know, I can clearly see it here on the time lapse. Okay, so I used a little bit of a cotton swab there to get the edge of the bank a little bit lighter so that I wouldn't have to go so close to it, you know, that white line with the cotton ball there. So see how we blended it in right there. That white edging there with the acrylic white paint pen, is really high in contrast. So what we're doing is we're decreasing the contrast between that line and the rest of the snow. Now this is where, if it didn't bleed in, we wouldn't have to do so much of this. I'm really having to redo that whole bank there, you know, with this other ink. Or with another layer of ink, okay? So we're blending this again. This is where you can really see that tan color, or that warmish pale orange in that green, red one there. But look at the white up in the green. It's much more white, so just different inks have a different color fast, I don't know, quality to them. Okay, I'm wiping off the bottom of this deer before stamping it so that it looks like it's standing in snow. I didn't want to make it look like it was going up to its, you know, body or something like that, standing in a foot of snow. So I kind of created where it's standing in maybe like, I don't know, what would represent 4 inches of snow maybe. So wipe off the bottom of your creatures anytime they're standing in something like grass or snow. Wipe off the bottom so that, you know, it obscures the bottom of their feet, representing that texture that they're in. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to be adding in some surface shimmer. Okay, now there's true white right there, and that was the color, you know, remember, of that, you know, creek bank lining that we did before. Look how much it's really changing there. We can kind of take advantage of it. I mean, I'd rather have it not do that, but I don't know. That's what we have to work with this. But anyways, I'm adding that little to the word stamp. I was just mentioning that, you know, these little reflective types of elements, you can add it to just about anything. Now, this white is not going to look white after, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. They really stand out here in a nice shimmer, but they really darken up with that kind of that tan type of, you know, peach color kind of bleed through. Okay, now this is adding these little dots in here, like on the slopes and everything like that. That's where you can kind of add a crisp element, okay? You know, before I was working with that ripped paper towel, it almost looks like clouds in there, which snow can look like too, but if you want more of kind of a rounded look, that's just where we kind of add that in. That's why I never really worried about being really exact with most of these processes here, because, you know, we can remedy that with, I don't know, further applications which are to come. And also in those slopes right there, you don't have to be perfect because we're going to be stamping trees over it anyway. And looks like I'm going to get to that at this point in time. And these look pretty good just in white, but I thought they looked better two-tone. So we'll do them in both black and white, okay? And when you do it in elements in various layers or represented, you know, depths within your scene, it brings visual continuity to the piece. Okay, so what I mean by that is the bridge is stamped in black, and that's pretty much the object in the background, right? And then that deer is in the midground now. It's in kind of the foreground, but when you put something closer to us now, it is now in the midground because there's something closer to us, okay? So the trees are now foreground, okay? So now when I stamp this tree out in black, what we're going to have is something in the background, midground, and foreground, all in the same value or tone, okay? And that brings that continuity to the scene. You have some element in all three representative depths of the same color, okay? And you have that kind of going on with the white too. You have white in the background, midground, and foreground, okay? And it's all the same medium. It's all just the brilliance, you know, black and white, and all those different layers. We don't always have to do that, okay? Sometimes it's interesting to have, you know, all black in the foreground and all white in the background, and it can push depth too, but you do that for the purpose of separation in this piece I'm doing it for, you know, I'm adding those same qualities to all layers of depth for continuity, okay, and kind of harmony. And I'm not trying to just kind of really emphasize visual depth. Okay, so adding my North Star here. I mentioned this in the other video, but I kind of make the horizontal arms of this 8-point star longer because I'm stamping out these two pieces in landscape, you know, elongated. If I was doing them in portraiture, I'd make the vertical arms longer to emphasize that that format. Okay. All right, so we're going to kill two birds with one stone. We're just going to lay these out like this, and we'll splatter paint them together. So one of the good things about working in, I wouldn't call this mass production, but doing two things at the same time, and then we'll just hit it with the Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. I'll need to actually reapply my paint to the brush here. I didn't add in enough, so we'll add a little bit more. Flicking it all over. Can't see it too well. I should have zoomed in right here. Okay, and I try not to overdo it, you know, so I don't know. It's really fun to do, and it's easy to overdo. So be mindful of that. If you ever get way too much of that Dr. Martin's in an area that doesn't have media underneath, like up in the sky, you can just wipe it right off. Okay, now going for some extra depth, I'm creating larger dots with by hand with my acrylic paint pen again, okay? So see those larger snowed, you know, they can represent stars or snowfall. Okay, so we have that, and we're going to apply some of these crystals in here. The crystals make a really great complement to the, you know, the metallic nature of this, these pieces. And I just applied some of that glue by hand with that little pin there. This glue is really thick, so if I just do it straight out of the tube, it creates these stringy little lines of glue as I lift it. Okay, this is a jewel picker. I need to clean off my jewel picker sometime. It has this little rubber tip to it. It makes it really easy, or a lot easier to position things like these crystals. Okay, here's my mistake here too. Note to self, mount your pieces before you add these crystals in. It's better to do these crystals after you do that, you know, format it into a card, because inevitably you're going to have to apply some glue to the back of these. I just used a little roller glue, I don't know, whatever you gun or whatever, applicator, whatever you call it. And in doing so, some of my crystals fell off. So it's just better to do it at the end. Okay, I'm adding some of these crystals in the creek. You know, we're kind of running water can represent, you know, a great opportunity for some specular light. That's light that's brighter than white. You know, so you can see that real shimmer down in that creek area, you know, right in the water. And I mentioned in my videos that anytime you add in those little types of details like that, especially little reflective areas, it can make your cards more of an interactive piece and reward the viewer of your card or the recipient of your card for further inspection. They look closer at it and it's like, oh, here's these little twinkly crystals, you know, and it gets them to kind of focus in. Okay, so here's how I formatted it. One on silver and one on gold, okay? I thought the gold, I just wanted to use the gold, and the silver would have matched with the crystals more on this one, but I thought that kind of warmish, peachy looking white area on the card, it has a warmth to it, so the gold, it paired with the gold fairly well, because things weren't really white anymore on it too much. There, there were more gold. Okay, now I've since gone in, and this part that I'm adding in now, even after a day, looks pretty white, okay? So I needed to get that base layer down. So having this additional layer of white on top of here, I guess it's high enough off the surface with a lot of dry media underneath it that it didn't, that red foil paint or whatever didn't merge as much with this last layer, okay? Now this one right here, like I said, I didn't need to do that so much, but you can see some of those trees, like those trees that I stamped below, they don't really look that white anymore. They look more like a seafoam green, like a very light one, but it did merge with those trees. So it's just kind of interesting. So just keep that in mind when using that. And like I said, I'm still going to use this foil because it's extremely cheap. It's, like I said, it was on sale a lot. I don't know, everything's going up in price right now, but just this year I've seen it go on sale for like $3 and I think 33 cents or something like that. There's a lot of buy one, get one 50% off. It's off a $6 pack, which is already incredibly affordable for 25 sheets. 25 sheets at a quarter page size like this, that's 100, that's 100 scenes. So, for $6, and then it's always on sale, so it's even cheaper. I've seen some foil packs that are $1 per sheet. Now, it's probably higher quality, yeah, but I'm not complaining here, with this price. Okay, so anyways, that is the two pieces right there. You can see those little foil types of embellishments on there. That background on here kind of dried to that darker tone, peachish tone, so I'm applying more of that in there so you can see it a little bit more. Now it really stands out a little bit too much, but that little white underneath the bridge, again, when it dries, it's going to darken. So see those little twinkly bits? Always fun stuff. And the foil kind of perimeter is really fun to do too. I don't know. It makes for a pretty visually impactful media combination in there. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for watching.